You're listening to Impulse to Innovation. The Institution of Mechanical Engineers podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Helen Mees. As a global community of mechanical engineers with over 120,000 members in 140 countries, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers has been at the heart of the engineering profession since 1847. The institution's mission is to improve the world through engineering by sharing the latest news, views and insight into the creative world of technology and the people that make it happen. Ask most people what comes to mind when they think of mechanical engineering, and many will respond with railways and trains. Our foundations as an institution are indeed firmly built on the traditions of railway engineering, with engineers who saw themselves no longer as civil engineers building static infrastructure, but as innovators of moving machines, able to cross vast distances at speed, transporting limitless amounts of goods and people. Our first two presidents, George and Robert Stephenson, are still revered today as the fathers of the railway industry. And as we celebrate the institution's 175th anniversary, we can look back with some pride at the achievements and innovations that continue to be developed across the railway industry today. Those innovations can, of course, only take place if we have a new generation of engineers to drive them forward. The education of our future engineering workforce is undeniably woven into the institution's ethos and mission across all aspects of engineering, and rail continues to play its part in delivering that objective. This passion and enthusiasm for educating the next gen is manifested in the institution's Railway Challenge, held for the last 11 years at Stapleford Miniature Railway in Leicestershire in June. Planned and delivered by a team of institution volunteers from the Railway Division, the competition, which brings together teams of international young engineers and apprentices from across the rail sector, is, as one would expect, timetabled and executed with the utmost precision, with teams being tested on their technical skills, engineering knowledge and business acumen over 3 intense and very long days. The competition is friendly, yet fierce, as the Grand Champions Trophy is on show for all to see in the judging tent, making sure that every one of the competitors plays their part. It doesn't matter if you are an ardent train fanatic, a keen enthusiast of engineering outside your own field like me, or just a curious spectator. You can't help but get drawn into the excitement and frustration as the competition's days progress. And of course, the whole thing is topped off by a ride on the mile-long track, with the wind in your face and the clackety-clack of the tracks beneath you. What could be more evocative of our engineering ingenuity? In this month's episode, myself and the HQ AV team headed out to the Leicestershire countryside for a live recording of the sights and sounds of the Railway Challenge, and spoke with the Challenge's chair, several of the volunteer judges, as well as team members, as they prepared their locomotives for the first day of tests. I won't give any spoilers as to who won, but you can read all about the competition in the link in the episode notes.
I'm Simon Levitsky. I'm the chair of the organising committee of the Railway Challenge. I'm from the University of Huddersfield, where I'm Professor of Railway Engineering and Director of the Institute of Railway Research there.
Simon, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Clearly, you are key to making sure that this event works, so we do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. There are many key people to making this work.
Of course, it's a huge team, and you've got a lot of people involved. They're all volunteers, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody's very enthusiastic to be part of it. We're certainly not short of volunteers. If anything, we sometimes have to think about, do we really need all these people? But no, it's really great, actually. And some of the people have so much experience. You know, they're people who come from the industry and from universities. They have loads of experience and can help all of the teams to achieve the results that they get.
No, well, even though I'm not from a railway background, I'm loving being here, and it's really nice to see some big engineering, which is great. I wanted to start really by asking you, I mean, we're here obviously on the Friday of the competition. Everything has just started. So tell us a little bit about what happens and how the competition goes through the weekend.
Yeah, okay. Well, of course, can I just go back? Because many of the teams start almost a year ago, when they first decide that they want to take part in the competition, and they register, and then they start making their plans, and then after a while they realise that it won't work, and they sort of change their plans, and gradually they build up to the crescendo, which is now the competition, the final of the competition. Today is the Friday, so most of the teams, all of the teams have got here and unloaded safely, got their vehicles onto the track, and what they're doing now is going through scrutineering, where we check safety and check that they've met all of the requirements of the technical specification and the rules, and that they're then safe to run and to operate.
Right, okay.
Then tomorrow the first part of the challenges starts. So in fact, actually today we've started already doing some of the challenges. We have about 7 or 8 track challenges, different types of thing to test the ability of the locomotive to pull a load up a gradient, how quiet it can run, how smooth the ride is, how well the suspension works, how efficient it is, and also a number of other challenges related to maintainability. Things like that, where the teams have to remove a powered wheel set from the locomotive, which is quite a tricky thing. They have to remove it, show to the judges that it's out of the locomotive, and then put it back as quickly as possible. So something like a sort of Formula One
wheel change
pit
kind
change,
of thing,
but an awful lot slower than that, really, because it's more complicated. And then into the Saturday and the Sunday, the other track challenges, which I mentioned, they take place, and then the final events running out on the track on the Sunday. Right through to the prize award on the Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and I've already seen the trophy. The trophy's out on display right now.
The trophy's there. We have the names of the previous winners engraved onto it. So,
so there's the incentive for the teams.
Take that away.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the Railway Challenge has been going for quite a number of years now. How long has it been running?
We're in our 12th year now.
Right, okay.
Yep.
So it's one of the oldest challenges, really, that the institution has, isn't it?
Yeah. Probably Formula Student was earlier than that. But.
What value do you think it brings to the young engineers taking part, and also to the railway industry as a whole?
Yeah, it's enormous, really. I mean, I see it particularly as an academic in a university. It's a real project that the students can really get to work on. Many of the things that they do in their academic career, very important. They need to learn the theory of everything, and they need to understand all the maths and how to do complicated fluid dynamics and use sophisticated computer tools. But the Railway Challenge is one of the few things where it's a real project where they understand some of the other skills, like working as a team. Vital skill as an engineer. It's fine being able to do all the complicated maths, but if you can't communicate it to the other people in your team and get your message across, you're not going to be a successful engineer. So this is one of the few examples where they can really put that into practice. Other things like, for example, managing a budget. For our team in my university, we say to them at the beginning of the year, okay, you've got a budget, it's £10,000. That's what it was this year. And they say, ooh, £10,000, that's quite a lot of money. And then actually they gradually realise as they go through the year and how things do cost money. And the other thing they really learn very quickly is that you can't just decide you want something, ring somebody up and get it the next day. There's all sorts of bureaucratic processes that you have to go through related to procurement. And then things like time management, dealing with all the complex tasks, sharing them out between them. So those are really important skills that they genuinely wouldn't get anywhere else in their academic career. So it makes them prepares them for their engineering career.
Yeah, I was talking to Ben earlier on, and he was saying the same thing, that it's a real opportunity to see what it's really like in the real world before they get out there, and to experience all of those things, as you say, that perhaps they wouldn't know until they did get out into a real job.
And of course in the Railway Challenge, it's slightly different from some of the other challenges. Not only student teams, we do have teams of young people from industry.
Yes.
So they are then able to, they come from a different direction. They have perhaps more of the skills from working in an industrial situation, but they also learn very much about teamwork and all of the other things.
Yeah, and indeed you've got one of the teams here that is a combination of the two, isn't it? Derby and Alstom have joined forces this year to produce a locomotive.
Yes, I mean many of the teams do contact industry and get sponsorship from industry, but some of them then, as you say, have gone that step further and managed to put a team together with people from the industry and from the university.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is excellent, and lets them share those skills and work together.
Now, I know you've already mentioned that you're from Huddersfield and Hood Rail are here at this event, so obviously there's a home crowd here for you. But which of the teams do you think are looking, really positive at this very moment? Because there's a few out there that there are a few out there who are having technical difficulties, aren't there? And already,
I would say most of them are having technical difficulties.
You think
actually.
so?
Yeah. Well, I haven't looked carefully today. Some of them have, almost operated out of the box and sort of gone round the track seemingly smoothly, but when you look into the detail, even some of those are having difficulties.
Yeah.
There's some very impressive kit out there, really. I'm very impressed. All sorts of innovations that teams have put in. We do encourage them as part. There is an innovation challenge within the competition where they have to show that they've done something innovative that year compared with previous years, and they have to write about that. They actually have to write a sort of academic paper, so a short paper explaining what the innovation is, and then we give them marks for that.
Yeah.
And just around the different teams, so we've tried to encourage people to get involved who are related to the team. So as you point out, I'm from Huddersfield, but I take no part in the judging. So we've made sure that the judges are not associated with any of the teams. The scrutineering can be, as long as you don't scrutinise your own team's
of course,
activities. So we sorted that out. But then the judges are completely independent from all of the teams.
Yeah,
which
fantastic.
Of course is good
and you also, as part of the Railway Challenge, there are a number of sponsors, aren't there, who are involved in the competition.
Indeed.
Some of them have been taking part and been involved in it from very early stages. What role do they play in this competition?
Really, to the competition that we have the participation of the sponsors. We've had it right from the beginning. Some of our sponsors have been with us right from the very beginning. Of course, we need funding. It's quite an expensive event to put on.
Yeah.
So we're very grateful to those sponsors for making that possible. But not only the money, many of them do come and get involved and advise the teams. We offer to all of the teams, particularly the teams from universities, that they can have an industrial mentor if they wish to, not essential. And the sponsors and, of course, the railway division, the board of the railway division, provide those experts who will give advice to the students.
Yeah.
The teams as well, of course, are free to get sponsorship, and most of them do that. So I mentioned that our team has a budget from the university, but we say to them, if they want to, they can also contact companies, which they do, to get sponsorship, either in kind, so some of them say that they'll provide them with equipment, or sometimes cash as well.
Yeah.
And that's another important lesson that teams learn about marketing and explaining to people outside the organisation why they should engage with them in what they're doing.
Being able to pitch your idea to a potential customer
is a vital skill, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they don't get that from, I would say, anything else really in the university.
Yeah, true. Well, Simon, I don't want to keep you any further today, but thank you so much for joining us. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm having a superb time.
There's a real buzz here, Helena. Everybody who's involved is excited
wonderful.
by it.
I'm constantly wanting to ask them questions and find out what they're doing.
Yeah, you should do. And most of the teams are really keen to talk about it, as I'm sure you found.
They've been great, and we've got some little excerpts in the episode where people can hear us interviewing them. So, but thank you
for
very
your
much.
Enthusiasm.
I'm
really good.
Totally loving it. Anyone who is listening to the show today, if you want to get involved with Railway Challenge, you can find it on the IMechE website, and also
just type Railway Challenge into Google and it'll pop straight up.
Absolutely, it does. It pops up straight away, and people can come and on Sunday.
Very welcome.
All
spectators are welcome to come and see what's going on.
Yeah. So hopefully, if they're
welcome young people, families, welcome to bring children and get them enthusiastic about railway engineering.
Fantastic. And if they're not able to come this year, well, hopefully they'll hear this and want to come next year. So that's great. Good. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Helen. Thanks very much.
My name is Yi Wang. I'm from the University of Huddersfield team. Yeah, so we still got a few things to do, some wiring to finish. The locomotive's coming together, but we had to make some late changes, so things aren't as together as they probably should have been. But we're working on it. We had a really ambitious plan to make a lot of changes, and those had not worked out for us so far. So we've actually reverted back to an old design. So we're kind of crossing our fingers to. If we can get a working locomotive, that's a win for us. So we'll take that. I think from a student's perspective, right? Like I've worked in the railroad industry actually for quite a few years. So really just getting an appreciation of what you actually have to do in practice when you work with a locomotive, when you work with the equipment. You know how to maintain them, how to make sure your design will translate into a maintainable product at the end of the day. A lot of designs work great on paper, but when you put them together, they may not, like components that have to be changed out that aren't easy to reach. Those would be the simplest examples of how a good design should be able to be worked on for anybody with minimum instructions.
My name's Ben Vallerly. I'm a rail project consultant for many rail projects, but I've recently been working on Crossrail, getting the Elizabeth line open, and I'm currently working on East-West Rail. I've been a part of the Rail Division Young Members pretty much since I started in industry back in 2011, and I have done many roles within the institution, including currently being a elected member of council, but previously being the Young Members Board Chair of the whole institution and the Rail Division Young Members Committee Chair before that.
We have known each other for quite some time, haven't we, Ben? We've been on many committees together, so it's really nice to have you here. And we're in a pretty dry Leicestershire right now. I was a bit worried this morning when I set off. I thought it was going to be raining, but the locos seem to be all out on the tracks now, and it's all looking really, really good. So you're focused on the maintainability challenge part of the competition. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so the maintainability challenge is basically a way for the teams to demonstrate their understanding of how we conduct routine maintenance on the railway, especially with rolling stock. The challenge itself is the requirement to lift a locomotive, remove a driven wheel set, so one that's powered by a motor in some way, be it chain driven or gear, and then reattach it in a safe way and re-present a locomotive for operational service.
Right.
That is a very key task. It's something that's done up and down the country, up around the world even, on a day-to-day basis. And it's one of those things that we feel they benefit from. We make sure that it's completed safely. We make sure that it's done in a fun environment, but we make sure that everything is split. There's 4 sections to it. Getting the locomotive ready to lift, but without lifting. We ensure that we're happy with the lifting method and how things are going to happen. Lifting the locomotive, removing said wheel set, proving that all disconnections have been made, preparing the locomotive ready for lowering, including potentially having reconnected things that have been disconnected previously, and then lowering the locomotive and getting the train ready to go back into service. Those 4 elements are all timed,
right? Okay.
Which obviously adds the jeopardy in because the teams are competing against each other. But we make sure with those stops in between those sections that we are happy that everything has been conducted safely. We will stop the teams if we need to make sure that they're not going to injure themselves or others whilst they're conducting the task, and they learn how to do things in an efficient, effective way. In that way.
Yeah. So I was out there actually while you were giving your sort of pre-talk about what they were needing to do. How's it been going so far? Have they all been successful, or are there still a few teething problems with some of the locos?
So we're early on in this year's competition. We're on day 1 effectively of really digging into what these locomotives can do. There's scrutineering going on around us. There's ensuring that all of the competitors who are here are fit for running on the railway itself. We have obviously started the maintainability challenge because that is, whilst a track-based challenge, it's also a static one.
Yeah.
It happens in location up at the station area, and that allows us to understand what the teams are up to, that they're able to move their locomotives themselves, conduct things safely without many of the hazards that exist in and around any operational railway, including here, whilst we've got access to lots of sort of hard standing areas to make things safe.
Yeah. It's
gone well so far. We've had a successful team attempt at it.
Yeah.
There were a few teething troubles, but I know a few of the teams have the odd electronics gremlin which they're addressing, and I'm confident we'll get a full set of trains running later this weekend. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me later.
Well, we will keep our fingers crossed. I've been out and around talking to some of the competitors as well, so some are very positive about it, some are not so sure, but that's the whole purpose of this exercise, isn't it? To learn from these opportunities and learn from this experience and then translate that back when they get back out into industry.
Yeah, that's exactly it, making sure that they've got those transferable skills. We've got students here, we've got apprentices, we've got graduates. Some of the teams are mixtures of both, because of the way we've set up this particular challenge versus some of the other challenges that the institution runs. And that's the key takeaway, is having that ability to take skills that you wouldn't necessarily learn in a classroom, and take those into hopefully a working life on the railways.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much that can be gained from really getting your hands dirty and really having a go and seeing why things fail and why things work. And I think that's a fantastic element to the competition. Now, you were young member chair, as you mentioned, for the railway division. So as a young engineer, what does the Railway Challenge mean to you, and what do you think it gives to young engineers taking part?
For me, I never personally got the chance to take part in it because when I was coming through graduate schemes, this was in its infancy as a challenge. I joined the Rail Division Young Members fairly early on in my career, and from there I've been able to progress into being part of the organising committee for this challenge, working forward to make sure that this is the best challenge we can have for these guys and girls who are here this weekend and beyond. We make changes every year to this challenge to try and keep it current. We introduced an auto stop challenge the other year, which is something we see on autonomous systems or even manned systems like the Central Line in London that stops automatically at a given location.
Right.
The driver's there more to check that things are all okay rather than to actually drive the train in certain circumstances. So we do try and evolve the challenge as well to meet the needs of the railway, so that they're gaining that learning and having that thought process around how a train works, how the railway environment operates, and the various things that go around that with logistics and moving things around and shunting, which are all part and parcel of this weekend. So that's the key thing we feel this brings to younger members. You learn a lot on graduate schemes in the industry, you learn a lot on apprenticeships in the industry. Depending on your degree, you may have learned lots of different things at university as well, or at college. All of those are perfectly valid, and this brings you an ability to learn on the job, bring in teamwork elements, soft skills, project management skills that sometimes engineers don't pick up till later in their careers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're doing that at a much earlier stage, and I think that's really invaluable. The ability to get involved with this is fantastic for me. I've loved every second of it. I come every year as best as I can. It's just great to see the talent we've got. We've seen people on university teams progress onto graduate teams later on where they've gained jobs because they've been involved in this. And they've been able to take that step up in their careers as they've moved forwards. For young members, it's about engagement, it's about networking. And that's what's key to this challenge, is having the ability to talk to the judges, the scrutineers, who are all people who've been in industry for between 5 and significantly more than 5 years. So, it's an invaluable way of meeting, learning, and challenging yourself and colleagues and friends to put something in place that effectively builds something that works. And be able to take those skills onwards no matter what their career path then holds in rail or otherwise. They'll
always take this with them. It'll be part of the stories they'll tell as they get older and encourage other young engineers into it. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate, we've got you for a short while you get back out there to do some more scrutineering. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
My name's Ellie and I'm from Reading.
What are you hoping to achieve? Are you hopeful you might win?
No. Basically, history of the Loco is we didn't really have it moving last year. So to actually be able to compete, the fact that we've just done that scrutineering is a huge achievement for us in itself. Obviously, we all have jobs, we all work from around the country. We're not like the universities, we don't get the same time, we don't have the same resource. So even to put that together is a huge achievement for us. And I'm PM this year and I'm really proud of the team. Coming from the team last year where it was like, can we even get it to move? To be in a position where we're competing, it's a nice thing, yeah.
Hi, my name's David Pearce. I'm 345 Delivery Manager at MTR Elizabeth Line. Today I'm here as Chair of the Young Members Committee for the Railway Division for the IMechE, but I'm also primarily a judge for the Maintainability Challenge and the AutoStop Challenge.
Okay. So before we get on to the AutoStop Challenge, tell us a little bit about your responsibility as Chair of the Young Members Railway Division.
So really, for me, it's sort of the outreach side of things. It's about encouraging young people to get into engineering, but also about supporting those who are already in the industry as well. And obviously, with that particular rail focus, I think the industry is typically, it's ageing, and what we're really struggling to do is get new talent in, and so it's a case of how do we make it appealing, how do we make it interesting, how do we make it exciting, but it's and also looking at, and one of my colleagues used quite a good term about a bit of a sort of a peership. Is that the right word?
Okay.
Acting as peers to people as a sort of not quite formal mentoring, but almost like a buddy.
Yeah.
So that if someone has any questions, they think, is this a silly question? I don't know. I'll ask this person. So that there are no silly questions. It's just having someone to speak to, as to help them get through the industry and building a little bit of confidence in themselves, as you progress through as an engineer and you progress through to, we support a lot of people through to chartership. I'm relatively recently in the last couple of years gained my chartership as well. I think most of the professionals that we've got in the Young Members Committee are also working towards it or have already achieved it, or we're not exclusively looking at chartered engineers. We have people going through the incorporated route or EngTech and things like that, but we've also got people on year in industry placements as well who are interested, and getting engaged with them encourages them to go, these guys, I had a great time doing such and such event, or just attending the meetings and going for socials and stuff. And it encourages people to go, engineering, I really enjoyed it. There's an energy to it rather than it just being people in high-vis vests or, lab coats
hard
and getting
hats.
filthy in hard hats. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
We are renowned for our hard hats, right?
Yeah. So, it's all about just sort of bringing that energy and enthusiasm and interest to engineering for young people, really.
Yeah.
That's kind of,
Right. Well, you sound very passionate about it, which is what it's really all about, isn't it? And across, I guess, all aspects of the institution and mechanical engineering, that creating that environment where people can feel nurtured as well as, develop themselves professionally is all really part of what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this AutoStop Challenge then, because I understand from Ben, this is a relatively new introduction to the competition. So what's it all about?
So it's all sort of looking at how we can reflect sort of the modern day technology on rail vehicles into these engineering challenges for students, apprentices and all those kind of things. So it's a case of how do we make that in a way in which is going to be achievable for people, rather than because the real life technology and things is vastly complicated to the point it's almost unnecessary, but it's adding a slightly different engineering challenge into what could be just a mechanical thing. And we recognise that as an industry we're not just mechanical engineers, we have to have an appreciation of various other things, and basically what it is you've got a point A and B. At point A, the train approaches and it scans what's basically a sensor of some sort. The train will then automatically receive that signal, and point B is a measured distance away. I forget exactly how far it is away, but the train has to stop as close to that point as possible. So it's not a case of it slams on the brakes and it just stops. It has to come to a measured stop, and the points are rewarded based on how far away you can get from that particular point. So we have had FH Aachen, who are here, one of the team from Germany. They weren't able to attend the last couple of years because of COVID, but they did send us a video of a setup they've got over in Germany. They built a setup so they could send us a video of them doing it.
Oh, wow.
And I think they managed to get to 5 centimetres away from the stop point. So, there's some absolutely fantastic stuff going on out there. But coming here where the track's a little bit more unpredictable and the weather conditions, obviously, the great British weather and everything, the wet weather can, it's a very real challenge that the railway faces. You have to sort of take all those things into account and try and achieve that stop. So it's just a slightly different thing rather than just slam on the brakes and see what happens. Like anyone can do that, but doing something where you take into account the diameters of the wheels, you take into account some of the conditions. You could, some people might look at doing sort of what we call wheel slide protection. I don't know if any of the guys here have got that. I haven't had the chance to look at that, but that's a very real technology, which is a bit like your anti-lock brakes in a car.
Oh, okay.
So it stops
Yeah.
them sort of skidding and then just basically going straight past the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the sort of the premise of it, is get to that stopping point as close as you can. Yeah.
So, I mean, what you're saying there is actually there's a specific challenge, but it can introduce lots of other engineering opportunities to explore that perhaps some teams might want to try, and others try something different.
Yeah.
And it gives them an opportunity to really explore the various, I guess, existing technologies and possible innovative new designs that may not have been tried before.
And that's one of the things I love about these engineering challenges, like this one and Formula Student and the UAS challenge as well, is that it's all interpretations of the rules as well. It's a bit like, if you compare it to Formula One, for example, where you've got your set rules, but every single team here has a different setup. Like every single one is different. You might have some people with chain gear drives, some with direct gear drives, all these kind of different things. And exactly as you say, every single auto stop one is different. It's not like they've all sort of converged on the same option. Yeah. Every single one is different. And I think that's fantastic. It's engaging the brain cells in slightly different ways. And then all the teams look at each other's designs as well.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, because obviously right now where they're all trackside together. They can all see each other's locos. They all have an opportunity to go and check each other out and see what they've done. This is the first time in the competition where they'll have that opportunity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of friendly rivalry, right?
Yes.
Isn't there? Everybody's kind of enjoying themselves and but they do learn from each other. I mean, that's the important part of it.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
And a lot of it is about there's a lot of camaraderie as well between the teams, because they've all worked so hard to be here. I think it's slightly different in this challenge in that some people are returning into it year on year.
Yeah.
Whereas I know sort of when I did Formula Student, we did it for 1 year and that was it, and then there's a whole new team.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of learning as well. But if a team needs help with a certain tool, for example, if they need a certain component or something's broken, then the teams will often just sort of huddle around and be like, how can we help? Because everyone wants it to work. Everyone wants each other's locos to work. And I remember last year, obviously, we didn't have too many teams. I think we had 4 teams last year. But when the 4th one got working, it was right at the end when the last one got working, but everyone was so happy for them because they thought every single one is working. You worked so hard over the last 4 days to get it to work, just to work, not necessarily to sort of win, but just to work. Was brilliant. And so that's one of the things I really, really like about this challenge. And the buzz here and the atmosphere is great. There's such a great community spirit, everyone coming together. Just basically, it's a celebration of engineering, really, and people's achievements, which I love. It's brilliant.
Well, for me, I think it's celebrating the long history that the IMechE have had with railway, right from our birth really up to today. And of course we're celebrating our 175th anniversary, so it's great to see the technology going forward and the technology being put into practice in today's competition. So David, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to just feel the buzz and enthusiasm from you. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in the rest of the competition. Who do you think's got a good chance this year? Is it a tricky one to?
I must say, looking at without giving too much of my view away, I think the Arkan guys have turned up with another very, very impressive loco.
It's an unusual loco as well, isn't it? It's for our obviously listeners. It's actually triangular shape, isn't it? It's not a square block that you would expect a loco to look. It's got flashing lights and everything.
It does. It's got disco lights. But it's an iteration of a design. When they came and they won a few years ago, it was a box. But they've come and they've made they progressed their design, and that's exactly what we want to see. So I'm really excited to see what they can do.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm Jonasz Izewski and I'm from Putrain team from Poznań University of Technology from Poland.
How close are you now to having the loco running?
We need to get some issues that are from basically delayed orders that we have managed to order a long time ago, but there were no parts at stores or something. There were many discussions about that, and now we need to move it together and run with the real parts that will be there forever. forever for next year, of course. But firstly, we were running with the spare parts not originally designed for that, so we could say that the first test will be here at Stapleford. The first real test that there are all parts together that we want to be there. So the way that we designed it.
I think you've got a good chance.
All teams are so high qualified that when we came there and saw the constructions, we think, wow, it's so mad. They made so good job. But then they're coming to us and they're saying the same to us. So I think there is a high level this year. It's really high level of the competition. Basically, the Aachen team with their wheel sets that just flew out in 1 second, even less. We'll see.
That's all for this month. In next month's show, we will be talking with past, present and future presidents of the IMechE to reflect on the relevance of mechanical engineering in today's very digital world, why the institution needs to play a greater role in driving political change, and how diversity of our engineering community is so vitally important. If you would like to send any questions for the President's Panel, email us here at Impulse to Innovation Podcast at podcast@imeche.org. You've been listening to Impulse to Innovation, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers podcast. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you, so if you'd like to share any news or any feedback with us, then please email us podcast@imeche.org. All the information on this episode can be found in the episode notes.